Good afternoon and welcome to Spotlight on the Debate Breakdown, a production of Richland Student Media in partnership with Richland Student Government Association. I'm your host, Reagan Davis. The first presidential debate for 2020 took place Tuesday night, and it was contentious. This afternoon, we will talk with Richland students about the debate, get their reaction, and find out just what they learned or didn't learn about the candidates' positions on the issues. Joining us today is Richland Government Professor Patrick Moore, who will be our moderator for this conversation. The students joining us include Edward, Desmond, and Fernando with Richland Student Government Association, and Dave with Richland Student Media. And with that, I will turn it over to Professor Moore.
Thank you, Reagan. Thank you for turning it over. I thought we'd first take the temperature of the room and find out what the reactions are, the general overall reaction of our students to the debate last night. What did you think about how the debate went? Edward.
Yes, for me, when I was watching the debate, I haven't seen since I came to the United States, I haven't seen a debate so destructive, so divisive, and so embarrassing. Because you have a guy who's trying to speak to the American people, and you have the other guy who's trying to like act like a kid, like a 5-year-old kid, talking over and not putting his point across. So to me, I felt like, it was enjoyable, but I was like, wow, this was disgraceful. I mean, I was about to turn off my TV, but I just stayed and just watch and see how, if it's gonna change. But it's like the same old deal. So yeah, because I've seen other debates since I came to the United States. I've seen other debates, and yeah, it gets intense, but not just that much intense when one opponent is just talking over, not letting the other opponent like make his point across, or even the opponent fighting with the moderator. I mean, come on now, like seriously, that's like childish. So for me, that's how I think about the debate.
Okay, that's an interesting take. What about you, Fernando? How did it go for you?
Hi, yes. Well, for me, it was a little bit, I guess, disappointing. I would expect if you're running for the presidency of a country that you're able to debate ideas, which is something that I couldn't see. I would hope that for the next debate, we are actually able to hear propositions from each side and more of a, like try to understand what each person is trying to present for the next 4 years for this country instead of just trying to attack personally. I even found a little bit distasteful a couple of comments that were a little bit out of the place because they was not related to politics, and I would rather just to keep it politic-wise in this matter. So that's overall. I would love just to see a better second debate if it happens, of course.
If it happens, although there's apparently some question now. I understand that Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi has recommended to Joe Biden that he not participate in any further debates. I don't really think that'll happen, but that's an interesting thing today. Anyway, then finally, Desmond, you're with us here today. What was your take?
I think it's interesting what you said about Nancy Pelosi trying to make Biden not participate in the debate. It was definitely an interesting debate. It was really fun to watch. Things that happened. Wasn't really expecting those. And it was an overall fun experience in the sense that, you got to see a more intimate part of both sides of the sides of the candidates. And of course, you had the moderator, and you had all those drama and everything happening. It was really fun to watch, and I did ask my friends who were major, big, huge Biden supporters, and they had some interesting opinions about what went on with the debate, and what they think currently after the debate, and how they're feeling about the next one and the third one to come. So definitely, yeah, it was an interesting debate. Yes, looking forward to the next one.
Okay. Now this you none of the three of you are expecting this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Sorry. I want you to tell me quickly who you think won the debate, and maybe a word about why you think they won the debate. Because a debate is a competition. It's a contest. It's a contest, hopefully, of ideas, and so there should be a winner and a loser. So since we've already got you, Desmond, what's your opinion? Who won the debate and why?
Personally, I think Trump won, and there's a huge amount of evidence in the clips to justify that. First off, he came in really strong. If you observe the first 30 minutes, the first half hour of the debate, he came in strong. He basically bullied his way through. He broke Biden's spirit, and the mistake Biden did was back off. He laid down after Trump did all those things he did, and he let Trump take dominance of the show, which, in my opinion, he's not supposed to. Biden has huge base of supporters, and they had expectations from him. People, I think, his supporters are looking for someone who can deal with Trump, someone who can, in my opinion, give Trump a big whooping. And I think they were expecting that from the debate, and he didn't really put that on. So I'd say he better come in the next one. He better come in stronger than he did, and not let Trump, ridicule him and run him over like what happened.
So your opinion was that Trump won not because of ideas, but because of personality.
Yes, a key, from my opinion, a key characteristics of a good leader is strong personality. A firm countenance on his opinions and of things. And from the clip, Trump had a stronger, he had more dominance.
Okay.
In the debate. So looking forward to what Biden can do in the next one. I definitely hope he takes a better stance on his topics. He had a really good perspective of things, but he didn't have a strong drive for them. He let Trump get his way with it.
Edward, what would you say? Who won the debate and why?
Okay, for me, I would say Biden won the debate. Because you know why? Because he was, although yes, you have Trump, talking over him, distracting him, attacking his son, but he still stayed calm and looked at the camera and spoke to us, we the American people. Because that's what a leader should do. I mean, I agree with Desmond about personality, but Trump's personality is not a good leadership to me. So I feel like Biden came strong. Oh yes, I mean he was trying to get his point across, and you have a 5-year-old kid president acting like a 5-year-old or kindergarten, interrupting him. So, and that's why I said he looked at the camera and spoke to people, on issues. You know what I'm saying? And when I was watching the debate, I was literally mad at the moderator because at Chris Wallace, because I know the reason I say why, because like you're the moderator, you have to be in charge. How you gonna let somebody just talk over, just make noise? You could be like, look, it's like 5 minutes into the debate, he's like, look, Mr. President, no, you gotta stop. I mean, right after debate starts, you should be like, okay, look, guys, no argument. You wait, be quiet, let him speak, something like that. Be in charge. That's what a moderator should be, not just let the other two go back and forth. I mean, yes, you can allow them to respond, but I feel like Biden had the more leadership skills because that's what we're looking for. And there's a lot of Democrats are so proud of Biden. Stay calm. And he was talking to the American people, which is us, with the American people, and saying, hey, look, this is what I'm going to do. All right? Okay. Think about what the president has done for you. Nothing. Blah, So while Trump was just like, he didn't even talk to the American people. He was just talking to himself. Or I don't know if he was talking to his base. So yeah, that's why I think Biden won.
What about you, Fernando?
Yes. Well, in this case, I will have to agree with Edward. I believe Biden won. And I hope I can see why Desmond says it, and I hope that the American people do not let themselves be fooled by that idea of like you have to be so strong to be a leader. Sometimes there are different type of leaderships, and That for me wasn't even like a strong in terms. For me, it's more associated with insecurities. And he was trying to just bully around because Trump do what Trump does. But anyways, in terms of who won, I believe is Biden because he at the very least addressed issues that are pertinent to the circumstances that we're currently in, which I believe is the purpose of the debate. While Trump was mostly focused on trying to talk over everyone and not addressing any of the issues that were happening or that were supposed to be addressed during that debate.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's very interesting comments from all three. Reagan.
Now we have 3 clips from the debate that we will share with you this afternoon. We will present them individually and ask for your reaction. The first clip deals with what the candidates have to say about the response to the coronavirus.
Based on what you have said and done so far and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. I laid out back in March exactly what we should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if we would have listened to you.
You have 2 minutes, sir.
If we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000, and one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should have closed our country.
Wait a minute. It says 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of you Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you
done.
didn't do very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was no economic recession.
Sir, you made a
There was no recession.
You made a point. Let him answer it.
And there was we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far more people. Far more people.
And,
you would have been.
And by the way, his own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up. He said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine. We're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't
we trust Dr.
Johnson
Fauci.
Johnson, Pfizer.
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen, let me move on.
Thank you for your attention to that. Now I want to go back to our student commentators to get their reactions to that clip. One thing we know, the history of the response in America to the coronavirus has been, I think we would all admit, it's been a little bit uneven. There have been things that have been done and a lot of things have not been done. There's been a lot of pushback from some of the governors who don't believe that the help from the federal government has been what it could be. And the federal government agrees with that because President Trump has said on many occasions that it's up to the governors to respond. And rather than coordinating a national response, the president believed that there should be responses individually in the states coordinated by the governors. And that has resulted in inevitably a competition among the states and sometimes a competition between the states and the federal government for ventilators and for personal protective equipment and for the equipment needed to respond to the virus. And so I'm curious to see what our student respondents think about the national response to the coronavirus. And so let's just go right to them. And first of all, how about Fernandino? What would your reaction be?
Hi. Reaction, you mean to the debate or to where the question you were saying?
To the debate segment that you just watched on the coronavirus.
I just wanted a clarification. Honestly, I would have rather in this case that there was like a national coordination instead of just each government, because the matter is that I understand that every state has different like needs and it has been affected with the coronavirus in different way. But the matter is that we're still one country. And if there is one state that may not react as fastly or like promptly as it should be, it's going to affect other states as well. So in this matter, I would have rather Trump take more of an initiative of like trying to coordinate all the states, because I believe it was the right approach. And I would also rather that he share a little bit more of information of what he already knew back in February. That way, at least those who we could have prevented a lot, because communication is always important in order to prevent issues that could affect somebody's health in this case. But yeah, at the same time, I cannot just blame Trump, because it's also every person individually has played some role either way or not. With the whole people saying that it is fake, that it is like a horse or something like that. So it is different factors, and in this case, I don't have to say it's just Trump. It has been different things.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, Desmond, you were watching the clips there. What was your reaction to the way the candidates dealt with the question of the coronavirus?
So I'm not essentially a Trump supporter, but based on the clip, it's quite evident. There was one part, if you were watching carefully, where Trump said you wouldn't have done the job, and that was basically a direct challenge towards Joe's ability to perform an effective task, or one in caliber of what Trump did by means of shutting down the country, so he could save some lives from outside influences. And Joe simply said, "I know how to do the job." If I were him in that position, I would have probably given a firmer basis. That was leverage for him to show Trump that he would have been a better leader in that perspective, in terms of decision making. And he simply did not answer the question the way I would have expected him to. He missed that opportunity to prove himself, as a stronger leader, and he moved on to the next topic without showing the American people and his supporters that he would. And arguably, that was one of the best things that Trump did, shutting down the country, to prevent outside influences. And the results shows that it has saved thousands of lives. And it's one of the good things he did, and that's one of the things I wanted to point out from that clip.
1 minute.
Okay, then finally, Edward, you watched the clips too. What would your reaction be?
Well, I'm gonna say this: Trump had every opportunity to save lives, but he didn't. But he was worried about himself and his money. And I disagree with Desmond about that. He didn't shut down the country. The governors of the states shut down their state, their economic, because of the coronavirus. And now he's blaming Democratic governors. I mean, what about the Republican governors that shut down their own states? Because guess what? Their numbers were rising in each of their states. Texas, for one, hit. I mean, you guys saw it in TV how Texas had the most what's it called? The coronavirus cases and deaths as well. Florida as well. And he didn't have the opportunity, and he had ventilators. He signed, and you guys remember back in June or July, he signed the Insurgents Act. No. What was the act? I forgot. I think, was it the Insurgents Act? Somebody might correct me. Sorry. He signed like the
Insurrection Act.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. That military can private company can make mass ventilators. And guess what?
No, I'm sorry. You're talking about the Defense Production Act.
Yeah, defense production. Yes. Thank you. That like private defense contract, can fix masks and fix ventilators and provide it for the state. So because all the hospitals were running out of ventilators, and as you mentioned, all the states were like yip yapping or fighting or competing like is the stock market or something, like, oh, this is mine, you know what I'm saying? And which is wrong. The federal government need to be like, okay, you know what? I mean, look at the example, and I agree with Biden. During the measles outbreak, during the Ebola outbreak, Obama and Biden came together and say, okay, you know what? How can we do this? How can we say, like, yes, 14,000 people died, but they don't have to shut down the economy. They don't have to shut down the whole country. They don't have to be like, okay, guys, let the governors handle their own state. No, they work with the governors. They work with the federal, with the Congress, and save lives. And even Ebola is about 4 people that died. I mean, I might be wrong. You guys can correct me. But you don't see no schools has been shut down. Nobody got affected. Yes, some people got affected by the Ebola, but not all people, like 7,000 or 200,000, like the coronavirus has, affect us. So I agree with Biden on that. I mean, he will do the job as president. So
okay, thank you. Reagan?
The second clip this afternoon deals with climate change and the candidate's response to the atmospheric changes that have an influence on the fires in California and the unusually high number of hurricanes this season.
I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have cuts.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very exciting.
Do you believe
for a lot of people.
that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of this planet?
I think a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's burning. California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they have forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country. It's a forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground.
But, sir,
that's burning down because of a lack of
management. But, sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars and trucks?
Well, not really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by $3,500.
In the case of California, they've simply ignored.
No, but you would take a lot of cars
rollback
off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And I'm okay with electric cars, too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Right. Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability of us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying jobs, not $15 an hour, but prevailing wage, by having a new infrastructure that in fact is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, make sure that he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is a guy who says that, well, the fact that it's all true. And here's the deal.
He's talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip down buildings
and
rebuild the building. No, it's the dumbest, most ridiculous. Where airplanes are out of business, where two-car systems are out, where they want to take out the cows too. That's not true either, right? This is a $100 trillion.
Look,
that's more money than our country could make in 100 years if we're
not
going to
the case.
All right, let me because I actually wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy efficient homes. So the question becomes, the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good-paying jobs.
But let him finish, sir.
He doesn't know how to do that.
$100 billion.
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good-paying jobs, and these tax incentives for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that.
That's
at all.
He did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up.
We are going to be in a position where we can create hard, good jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. They didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. But the rest of the world, we've got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
Thank you, candidates, for that enlightening discussion of climate change. I'm curious to what our student commentators think about the candidates' responses to Chris Wallace's questions about climate change. The commentator or the host of the moderator of the debate, Chris Wallace, asked about the Obama era climate efforts and then contrasted those with what's been happening during the Trump era so far. And I'm curious what y'all think about it. What about you, starting with you, Desmond, this time? What was your reaction to the climate change segment?
Sure, Patrick. I think it was really interesting. Trump, on one hand, was talking about building about 1 billion tree project he's working on, and Biden was talking about building charging stations and highways for electric cars. Both sides had really good basis on sustainability, and I'd like to see either or both of either sides, happen. Sustainability, as it is a big issue, and I'm glad to know that both leaders are working on it. Well, Trump at one point pointed out about Biden's efforts, and asked at the ending of the clip, if you're observing, why Biden didn't make effort in the past. I don't think that's relevant. I think what's relevant is what's going to happen in the future. What the supporters of either candidates are expecting of them in terms of sustainability. And I do have an opinion on the bill, moving back into the bill, that I think it was the climate deal that Trump pulled out of earlier.
The Paris Accord?
Exactly, yes, the Paris Accord. Biden, on one hand, did say that he plans on moving back into that same deal. And he pointed out, and Trump did point out, that it was a $3 billion bill. My opinion is, if it costs the country more than it can afford, if it costs the country more than it can produce, because Trump did say that it's a $3 trillion bill, and that's more than the United States can produce. I think that would be a really bad step. I wouldn't recommend that he does that. That is one of the driving factors in why I support Trump from this clip. I think building the billion tree projects that Trump plans on initiating is a far more sustainable policy, and I think the entire country can benefit from that. As regards to moving into the Paris Accord, I think that would hurt the economy, and that's my take on the clip.
Okay. I would I'll just leave it alone. What about you, Edward? What was your reaction?
Yes, thank you, Patrick. I would say I agree with what Desmond was saying about both sides. They take on sustainability. One side want to build trees, one side want to build charging stations. But and also the second part of what Desmond said, that Trump was focused on what Biden's passed. That's not necessary. You got to think about what's going for the future. And I do agree with Biden because of the Paris Accord. I was here when the Obama administration signed the Paris Accord. It didn't cost no penny from the United States. It helped out climate change. It helped out sustainability. It reduced more fossil from the air to like pollute the air, and that's why we have all this sickness, all this diseases, and all this hurricanes. There was less hurricane in the Obama administration than now when Trump came into office. There's more hurricanes. This guy don't even believe in science, in climate change. He keeps saying that, just blame it on his favorite words, on the Dems, on the Democrats. Oh, the Democrats is Democrat. Come on, really? Like, what you gonna do? To him, he said the climate change was bad. To me, the climate change was good. So I agree with Biden, him going back to the climate change and resigning that climate accord and joining with Paris and other countries to But the only thing is you gotta make sure other people pay their fair share. In the climate Paris Accord, making sure that everybody that are following that accord that they signed. Say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna reduce my fossil fuel, reduce a lot of oil, and what else? I'm thinking, give me one. Other stuff that is causing all this climate change, all this snow is melting, all this hurricanes. Come on. So I feel like Biden, really hit on why his really hit on the climate change issue. That yes, I'm gonna sign the Paris Accord, making sure that they go back to the Paris Accord and making sure other countries do reduce their fossil fuel as well. So yeah, that was my take on it.
All right, thank you. Ferdinando, where are you on this?
Well, for me, there is this interesting point. For me, it's a little bit weird that Trump is complaining about how much does the Paris Accord cost, but he still intend to build the wall that he's trying to do. When it comes to like a huge amount of cost, like I mean, the Paris Accord is more beneficial than a wall that is not gonna actually help the issue with the immigration and stuff. So I think like he's just kind of like pinpointing a specific point just to like boost his argument, which in this case I don't think it kind of matched the circumstance. And I do agree with Edward in this case. Like I feel like we need to do something about the climate change. That like we can see the effects, and the argument cannot be that only because it's still snowing that means that the weather is not becoming warmer. You know, like it is being consistently that every year is just hotter and hotter, and you cannot just deny that. And I would like him to be more open to different views, in this case the scientific researches, and instead of just saying how people may say he's doing something nice or well, like I would like to see like actual organizations that are like proficient in that matter that back him up, instead of just saying that people are doing a lot, because people can say a lot of things. We have been as a society mistaken in different matters. That doesn't mean that, like, just because a lot of people say something doesn't mean it's true. But if you have somebody who is dedicated to study a specific topic, why would you just dismiss what this person has to say? Give it a chance, listen, and that's a part of being a president, like to have to pick some information and use it as fit as you believe it could be, which in this case, I think he's not doing it.
Thank you, Fernando. All right, then we need to move on. It's time for the end of that segment and the start of the next one. Reagan.
Our third and final clip this afternoon deals with the issue of white supremacy in the United States and whether our president thinks it's an issue that should be addressed or not.
You have repeatedly criticized.
Wait, I have to answer his statement.
No, you have
his
repeatedly.
Statement. Wait,
you have repeatedly. No, you've been talking back and forth.
You made a statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to end it.
Sir.
I would love to end it.
You know, if you want to switch seats.
We could very quickly.
We could do that, but
send in the National Guard, it would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay.
But they don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
to do
specifically
that, but
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
who would you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys. Stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
FBI director
This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacist. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got to be
not
kidding.
militia. That's what his FBI. His FBI director said.
Well, then you know what?
No,
we're done, sir. We're moving on to the next. We're moving.
When a bat hits you over the head, that's not an idea.
Everybody in your administration
bad.
tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas.
Antifa is a dangerous,
all right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
we're now moving on to the Trump and Biden records.
They'll overthrow you.
When a president, I'm going to ask a question.
That was a pretty fiery segment there in the debate, and I'm interested in going to the student commentators. But before we do, I want to just point out one thing, and that is that the president was talking about how we need to bring Antifa into check when his own national security agencies don't see it that way. The FBI just in the last couple of days has released a report citing once again right-wing militias and right-wing movements as the primary danger of domestic terrorism in America. The CSIS, Center for Strategic and International Studies, just released a report with since 1994, there have been in the U.S., with the exception of the 9/11 attack, setting that aside for just a moment, 329 murders linked to the right, and 21 linked to the left, and one linked to Antifa, and that one was the Antifa member himself who was killed in the attempt. And so when the president talks about left-wing violence needing to be brought into check, he's at odds with his own administration on that. And so I'm curious what the commentators will have to say about that. Since you went last time, Ferdinando, how about you going first this time? What's your reaction to the president's and candidate Biden's, Vice President Biden's response to the white supremacist question?
Yes. Well, obviously for me it's a little bit. I have mixed feelings here because I cannot believe that he wasn't able to do so. I mean, it should be easy to condemn something like that at this point, at the very least, after all the history that we have seen. I would have really appreciated that Trump would have at the very least be able to say that. And I think, like, if I'm not mistaken, even after the debate happens, there has been even an increase on people who are actually supporting these radical movements of like aggressive movement. And that's why it's so important. I believe that to have a call here, like whenever there is somebody who wants to be president, you have to be very mindful of your words, of how you express things, and because everything that you said has an impact in your country one way or another, and that's what people are seeing. Like, you have a whole country looking at what you're saying and the ideals, and it's not just this country, other people are seeing it as well, and it sells an image that may not be true to what the majority of the population in this country feels like. So that's what I feel. I rather just he addressing that a bit more, instead of just rounding the questions around.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Edward, what was your reaction?
Yes, thank you, Patrick. Well, my reaction was appalling that a president can even condemn white supremacists. They're saying, "Oh, I'm gonna tell them to stand down, stand by." So you're telling me that if the election don't go your way, you're gonna tell them to start killing people? I mean, come on, man. This is the United States of America. This is not a third world country like where I'm from. That's what the president would do. The president, if the election go his way, will start killing people. Say, okay, guys, my supporters, go attack these people. Like, seriously, that is unbelievable. As the president of the United States, like any president, both left, both right, you should condemn. You should be like, okay, look, I don't, I mean, this president had a lot of chances to condemn these people. I mean, he has failed each and every day. The first one, 2017, during the Charlottesville riot. I mean, you're going to say to the American people, oh, they find people on both sides? Like, really? People that walk at night with, what's it called, with light touch, saying that Jews cannot replace us. Like, seriously? And you have a Jewish son in the White House. I mean, you couldn't just be like, okay, guys, I condemn you. Please, I'm not part of you. Do not refer my name to you. Leave me alone. Or send the FBI to investigate them and catch every Ku Klux Klan, every white supremacist, everybody that's against the rule of law. Then you want to say Antifa? I mean, Antifa is an ideology. Like you said, it was just like one incident. I mean, it's not like, oh, the left would just rise up and just like, okay, guys, go kill people. No. I mean, I haven't seen this so this president had a lot of opportunity. I mean, he would say something today, the next day say, oh, I didn't say it. I condemn it. And anytime I watch the news, his supporters, maybe from the senators, saying, oh, the president have condemned. No, he hasn't condemned no white supremacists. He had every chances. He said there are fine people on both sides. Really? Come on, what kind of human being would say that? I mean, not even my 6-year-old cousin would say that, oh, there's 5 people on both sides. Like, seriously? So he need to do better. He need to do better and condemn these people and say, look, they're not part of this nation. They should get out, or they should arrest them and put them to jail. That's my take.
Okay. Thank you. Desmond, I think you're going to have the last word on this one.
Yes, I appreciate the opportunity of being the last person to speak here. I think this topic holds key political influences, and it was one of the roughest points. One of the roughest points of the debate, hands down, because of the influences they hold, politically. Uh, the issue of Antifa and white supremacy are really, troubling issues. And what I observed Trump doing right there was, after the Chris Wallace, after the moderator asked him if he wanted to tell the white supremacists to back down. I think that was like kind of painting a picture that Trump is the leader of white supremacy, and his response to Biden was like kind of painting another picture that his wing is the leader or are the leaders of Antifa. There are very poor consideration of facts here. It was a rough point, back and forth of ideas. Communication wasn't proper, so this was definitely not one of the good parts of the debate. But if I would say that one part held their standards straight, made it straight, it would be the Trump part. And like I said, I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm only saying this because Trump went along with the moderator. He said he held back white supremacy, and then he pointed out his ideals of Antifa and what he think they are. And then Biden simply said Antifa is an ideology, which I have no problems with, of course. But there are also sources out there in the internet, that point out, activities that the Antifa carry along. If I would be in Biden's position, I would probably have, in this case, clarified, this ideology that he spoke of, that Antifa is. I would have brought that out, but of course, they didn't have time. They didn't have the moment for that because they were just spilling back and forth with ideas. But that was a really good opportunity for Biden to point out clearly what he believes the Antifa is and his stance on the issues going on currently. We have BLM, Black Lives Matters. We have white supremacy. We have Antifa. We have all these groups coming up and causing their own notion or their own term of havoc. But I think what the people need currently is proper information, what these groups are, which ones should be eliminated, and which ones we should support. I don't know what the Antifa is because none of these candidates clarified what it is. I do know what white supremacy is, and I just like the fact that Trump did due diligence at what he said about white supremacy. That's my take on this clip, essentially. Patrick, your mic is muted.
I'm sorry, Desmond, what was that?
Oh, I said
your mic was muted.
Oh, my mic was muted. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So I was just saying that. I think that brings us to a close, unless we have one minute or 45 seconds for any. Actually, no, we don't even have that. So thank you very much. Thank you very much to our three student commentators. I'm going to throw it back to Reagan.
And that wraps up our conversation today. Thank you to our moderator, Government Professor Patrick Moore, and our student panelists. Richland Student Media and Student Government Association will bring you a series of student-produced events in response to the debates leading up to the November 3rd general election. This has been Spotlight on, the debate breakdown. For Chronicle TV, I'm Reagan Davis.